My name is Mike Ferguson. I'm an independent industry analyst based here in the UK that focuses in on data management and analytics. So my background's about 37 years in the game now. And I'm also chairman of the conference at Big Data London. So I want to talk to you about achieving governance and agility whilst at the same time trying to reduce the time to value. Almost seems like an impossible challenge in a data landscape that, for most of my clients at least, is getting really challenging to hang on to. So what I want to talk to you about is, first of all, the vision, the expectation that's going on in a lot of C-level execs that I talk to, and the massive thirst of new data associated with that vision and the digital transformation that many organizations are going through right now. Then there's the complexity, if you like, that comes from that, and the challenges caused by all of that data coming into the enterprise. I want to look at the siloed approach that's been going on in a lot of organizations today, and then how is it that companies are starting to rethink as a way to find a way to conquer the complexity or even embrace it, whilst at the same time delivering trusted data rapidly in order to shorten the time to value. And we will look at three major areas for starting to do that. One is data lake. Two is what I would call an information supply chain. And three is a data marketplace. And how by doing that we can potentially bring together trusted data assets and analytical assets and simplify access to data to reduce the time to value. And I'll try and make a couple of announcements that were made very late last night after the working day here in London that will probably impact the marketplace significantly. Okay, so what we've got going on, I think, for most organizations at the moment is C-level executives with a real vision and embracing of data and analytics. Every time I go talk to them, they seem to talk to me about the fact that this is really going to transform their business. This is going to give them competitive edge and disrupt new markets in order to generate new revenue streams. And the expectation is that, as the Americans would say, you're going to be able to turn on a dime from a business perspective, move very rapidly, and deliver value on a continuous basis. So there's a big expectation. If you look at some of the surveys coming out of some of the big CEO conferences, for example, this one, which was done at the World Economic Forum, shows right now CEOs saying that data and analytics is now everywhere in the enterprise. Absolutely everywhere in parts of their business. But then also, if you look at the excitement around it, a different survey showing that real urgency around investing in data analytics, 87.8% of companies said that there's greater urgency right now. And if you look at what's the investment going into, it's AI and machine learning and cloud. So real big expectations going on at executive levels. And so what about the thirst for data that's coming on the back of that and the challenges that that brings? When I started out in my career around data and analytics, it was all about data warehouses. And that was just structured data, transaction data, master data, forming the basis of facts and dimensions in a data warehouse. And we went off and built those systems in most cases, multiple data warehouses in a lot of my company, a lot of my clients, to look at various different aspects of front office activity or operations or inventory management or the financial side of it. But today we're in a world of far more data than that. We're in the world of machine-generated data. Things like clickstream, trying to tell you about your online behavior of every single person that visits your website what they go and look at, what they put in their shopping cart, what they take out again. All of that is recorded. We've seen the explosion of log files, not just web server web logs, but other kinds of logs being created by infrastructure technologies, which are being used to support cybercrime, which itself, cybercrime is an analytical problem. And so huge amounts of analytics going on around that. We've got IoT data, whether that's consumer IoT with products with sensors in, or whether it's industrial IoT with equipment generating enormous amounts of data on the machine-generated side. Then we've got human-generated, whether that's social media data like Twitter, inbound emails, even voice data coming in, all of that associated with opinion, for example, or if you're in a vertical like pharmaceutical and drugs trials, enormous amounts of human-generated unstructured content there. And of course, huge amounts of data coming in from external sources, and the number of data marketplaces that monetize data springing up on the net is just crazy right now. So what that's resulted in is more than just a data warehouse. When I started out, we've now got multiple analytical data stores running different analytical workloads, optimized for different kinds of analytical use cases, whether it's graph analytics for something like fraud rings, or whether it's or even to identify influencers in social networks, or whether it's something like streaming analytics on IoT data, or to spot or predict equipment failure, or even to stop a fraudulent transaction in flight, and offline analysis, whether it's on cloud storage or whether it's on on-premises Hadoop systems, to be able to analyze stuff there. Natural language processing or heavy-duty data science on large volumes of data using Spark, using machine learning library, or Flink. Well, Flink is more aimed, I think, at the streaming side of it. But all of this is now on the cloud, not just some of it, all of it. But for most organizations, we're probably in a hybrid state, some in the data center, some on one or more clouds. And the problem so far with regards to all of this is, for, again, most of my clients, we're running in silos. Is that, teams are working on streaming are not the same teams that are working on natural language processing on a Hadoop system with huge amounts of text, which are not the same as the people working on data warehouses, or the people working on master data management. And data management technologies and the ways in which we ingest data and clean it and transform it are all different across all of these different silos. And so there's a plethora of technologies, everything from Python to R to scripts like Pig even, all the way through to traditional ETL tools. But the other problem that's going on is we're ingesting data into all of these systems. And so it's not just necessarily into one place. I have a client of mine at the moment with 9 Hadoop systems, and are running in 3 different clouds, and they've got about 5 different data warehouses. So the end result is that there's a lot of data pouring in here, but not necessarily all in one place, sometimes in multiple locations. And so we've got a real problem caused by greater complexity of a data landscape. We've got data stores that could be NoSQL, data stores that are on the cloud or on premises. We've got Hadoop systems, we've got cloud storage, we've got relational databases, all of which are in play around the analytical space. And the problem right now is data is residing in all of those systems. There's duplication, there's overlapping subsets. Nobody really knows where everything is. There's no idea of data quality, and people are finding it really difficult to understand where sensitive data is for GDPR compliance. So it's not surprising when you look at the sprawling landscape, and by the way, we're now going out into edge computing and pushing it beyond cloud right down into different devices, that the data is becoming increasingly more distributed and in more and more data stores, both on premises and in the cloud. And that's causing a massive challenge in being able to govern it, integrate it, find it even, before you can even attempt to integrate it. The other thing that's changed rapidly over the last probably 5 or 6 years, probably maybe a bit longer, is that IT used to do all the data cleansing and ETL processing, particularly around data warehouses and data marts. Nowadays, they're perceived for many organizations as a bottleneck. And so as a result, business autonomy with their own budgets have gone out and bought self-service data prep all over the place. And we've got Alteryx, we've got Trifacta, Paxata, we've got Tableau Prep, we've got vendors like MicroStrategy sponsoring tonight, we've got other BI vendors, Click as well, with Podium acquisition last year now in the prep business. Everybody's in the data prep business. And so people then grabbing data and preparing it themselves. And the problem that's emerged in several of my clients, and I'm not sure about in the audience, is this: Wild West. Everybody grabbing data from anywhere, kind of completely uncontrolled. And I love a quote from one of my clients which said, she did an audit of her new CDO, she did an audit of their enterprise, and she came back with this quote, and I really liked it, which is, everybody's blindly integrating data with no attempt to share what they create. I just really like that, which is just silos all over the place. And so the concern is that it turns into not just a number of big silos, but lots of small silos, and no sharing of anything going on. And so the danger is it's kind of out of control, inconsistency everywhere, and nobody knows which type of data to trust. So I guess the title of this presentation is how do you shorten time to value whilst governing and getting control of your data and improve agility at the same time. I mean, it seems to be that people want governance on the one side and then they want freedom on the other. And it's like, well, you know, how does that work? It's almost like opposing forces. And the question is, why not both? And the question, well, how? And I think how is through a number of steps that are emerging, and some of my customers are rethinking their whole data strategy. And the first one is this: if you're going to share data, everybody better understand it. And so common vocabulary to share data, to understand what it means, very, very important. So business glossaries in data governance are alive and well, even in the big data world now. Common data management platform, rather than everybody doing anything with any tool out there, could we rationalize that? Could we organize to become data-driven? So there's a program of work, there's a number of projects, there are people who are information producers, and there are people who are information consumers. And can we align it with business strategy? And is there a number of analytical projects that are associated with an objective and a strategy, and what are they? You know, what data assets do I need to reduce fraud? What analytical models do I need to reduce fraud? Which ones run in runtime, in real time on streaming? Which ones are running offline and don't need streaming, but they're all associated with fraud? And so there's a family of models to be built. And could we create a data lake and create or curate ready-made trusted data sets that people could consume so that we could get this supply chain going and really accelerate time to value. And create ultimately then these trusted data assets potentially in a marketplace that people can then shop for data as a service and speed up their ability rather than always go back to raw data and try and prepare it from scratch all over again and again. So I think the common vocabulary idea is fundamental. It's fundamental because if you want to share data, everybody has to understand what it means. If you don't, then everybody doesn't understand what it means and then doesn't trust it necessarily and could go off and reinvent just simply because they don't understand it. And in a way, it doesn't really matter whether you're sharing data in XML format, in JSON format, by putting it in a logical model or in a model for people to access that. Either way, it should have a common vocabulary, or whether you're presenting it virtually through data virtualization layer, either way, common vocabulary is needed. And I think there's another reason it's needed. Probably for the first time in my career, I could honestly say it's no longer operational systems over here and analytical systems over there. What it is is data and analytics in the middle of the enterprise, and everything wants to wire into it. It's become strategic. And if you're going to share this stuff to every part of your business, it has to be commonly understood, has to be trusted. And what I'm seeing is people are fed up with garbage in, garbage out. And so there's a real move towards how do you harness these teams of super bright people who are building analytical models on different platforms, but harness it in a way that they can contribute quickly and easily to value, rather than everybody bolt off in different directions and buy their own tools and run on whatever platforms they like and hope that they all kind of come up with something. And so what I'm seeing then is this kind of a kind of rethink about organizing yourself. Rather than being centralized, which is where IT was years ago, or going all the way up the other end to being distributed, where everybody's scattered off doing their own thing, could we not have federated, whereby there's a CDO, which is aligned with the C-suite and the business strategy, and a center of excellence who's supporting all of these teams out there across the business who are working on common objectives. So it's business-aligned data science. It's business-aligned data engineering to prepare the data. So there's a single thread that runs all the way from strategy right to data. And could we not do this on common technology platforms rather than everybody bolting off and doing their own thing on whatever they like? But as long as it's extensible, where I can add code if I need to, that someone's already developed, and could I have a catalog to tell me what on earth is out there across this landscape of data? And you know, could I move towards an extensible analytical platform where if I want to use Spark Machine Learning Library, I can do. If I want to go use H2O sparkling water, I can do. If I want to go and use TensorFlow, I can do. I can just add these in and still get the teams to exploit those libraries to do what they need to do. Could we take this siloed approach and rationalize it? Could we find a way to do that? Well, an obvious example of that is right here, all of these data management boxes, different tools, you know, everything from something like, I don't know, Scoop or Flume or PigScript going on over here, or even to command line processing going on over here, to ETL tools, data mining tools. RapidMiner, NIME has got data preparation capability in it. Could we not somehow rationalize that so that we could get a common approach to doing this? And could we not treat these data stores that they're part of a big data lake, rather than just a single data lake that says a data lake equals Hadoop? I have so many customers that are not doing data lake on Hadoop. Or a data lake has to be, you bring the data to one physical data store. How do you take a global company that operates in 100 countries with data centers around the world and tell everybody to bring all your data to one data store? I mean, it's just impractical for big global companies to want to do that. So the question is then, could data management software rise above all of these data stores and be able to still know what's going on and be able to handle the complexity around it? Couldn't you define the jobs once and run them anywhere? Couldn't you see across what data is available anywhere? Couldn't we have a catalog anywhere? Well, but certainly from a data management perspective, the battle's on for this platform, sometimes called a fabric. And there's no question that this market is heating up. So, for example, this is some of the key vendors that I see in the marketplace trying to go end-to-end. You see the one I highlighted was announced at 6 o'clock last night. Google entered the market with Google Cloud Data Fusion. Announced at 6 o'clock last night in San Francisco. So now built on the Cask platform, doesn't have a Luma on it yet, but they're in the ETL business. This is drag and drop ETL, but they're going head-to-head with the Informaticas, the IBMs, all of them. IBM's rebuilt its entire InfoSphere suite to be cloud private for data. Informatica's trying to rewrite its products to become microservices oriented. Everybody's piling in here. Microsoft is trying to compete, not fully out the door yet. Obviously, they've got Azure Data Factory, they've got SSIS, they've got data flows in Power BI. Azure Data Catalog 1 is out there. I don't know when all of those pieces will come together. But nevertheless, you know, the battle's on here, some from big vendors, some from small vendors like Zaloni, based in North Carolina, not far from Cary, North Carolina, which would give you a bit of a clue. They're, of course, SaaS based headquartered in Cary, North Carolina. Certainly the CTO or the head of products at Zaloni is a formerly head of Dataflux, a SaaS data management company. But it's not just the data management tools that go across. What about the catalog? This is also a huge market growing very, very rapidly to understand what data is available across this landscape. And again, this market heating up. And again, last night, 6 o'clock, Google entered the market with Google Cloud Data Catalog. So again, announced at Google Next in San Francisco. So two hot off the press announcements. This kind of software is getting huge attention. Everyone from BI vendors like Qlik, who bought Podium last year, in the game now, as well as other vendors like the bigger ones like IBM, Informatica, Talend, etc. These products are trying to do automatic discovery. How many of you have seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise? Anyone seen that? If you want to understand automatic discovery, just go watch Minority Report. It's great, great idea. The idea is crawl all of these data stores, discover what's in all of the files that are and tables that are in them, and populate a catalog to say what's out there, what does it mean? So try and label it to understand what it means. Also, not just within traditional data stores, cloud storage, Hadoop, relational databases, IoT schema registries also now starting to get crawled to populate the catalog to understand the structure of the data coming in from devices. Traditional big OLTP systems participating in core business processes as well. And I think that's trying to automate the discovery of data, automatically profile it, automatically tell you where the sensitive data is across that landscape from a PII perspective for GDPR compliance. And trying to organize yourself into who's producers and who's consumers. Who's making data sets that consumers can pick up and reuse. And the catalog becomes the linchpin to do that, to publish what's created, except now it's no longer IT doing it, it's IT and business collaborating together. And I see certainly data science very much part of the production side of this. You know, if you take voice data and you want to convert it to text, that requires analytics to do that during the processing and preparation of data. But I think it's also a case of how do you keep it aligned with business strategy? And so we're seeing the creation of projects. So different projects. So if I want to reduce fraud, well, what are the data projects in play that reduce fraud? If I want to improve customer engagement, what are the data projects that are in play to improve customer engagement? So there's real alignment that gets the focus of the sponsors at the C-level. Also the executives, also the data scientists. What models are you building to reduce fraud? What models are you building to improve customer engagement? And can you create these projects where people come together to give them access to data sources and allow them to build ETL jobs, self-service preparation jobs, models, all of which are associated with the project to achieve a business goal? And again, why is it that we should dump all the data in a data lake and just say, could you all just go there and you figure it out? I mean, could it not be organized? Could it not be the case that these projects run through a curation process? We ingest this data, it's organized, there's a bunch of projects working on a common platform to deliver ready-made data assets into a marketplace. The purpose is, why is it that every time you start a project, you have to go all the way back to zero? Could we not reuse, at least for some of it? If you go to the canteen for lunch and you want chicken, do you walk in and somebody hands you a raw chicken and some ingredients and say, here you are, you figure it out? I mean, couldn't we just find some ready-made, where you could consume it? Of course you want to know, how long has this been sitting here? 30 days? Or how fresh is it? You want to know that. But I mean, you want ready-made assets to speed up the ability and allow people to deliver value. And then the next question is going to be, how are you going to build that supply chain? On what kind of technology platform? You've got a couple of choices. I mean, do you want to do it on a common platform from a single vendor, where the catalog and the whole thing is available from a single vendor? And you just saw the list that I mentioned, the IBMs, the Googles of the world, Microsofts and others, trying to complete that picture of a single set of technology to do it all. Or are we going to go best of breed from different vendors? And a lot of companies say, well, let's go and buy a catalog from vendor X and a self-service data prep from vendor Y and a ingestion tool from vendor Z. And the assumption is they're all just going to snap together. And what I'm finding in a lot of my clients, no way do they snap together because they're not sharing metadata at all. And so often this turns out to be some bridges out between some of these steps, and it slows the process down a bit. But without a doubt, if you're going to go down this way, it's not just, it could be that you go up the top half and there's a few gaps and you try and plug it with something best of breed. But if you're going to go best of breed and do different tools for different parts of this chain, then we'd better know what exists in each of the tools. And so the catalog has to know not just about the data, it has to know about all the ETL pipelines, all the analytical pipelines, or the from the data mining tools, all the Jupyter notebooks or Zeppelin notebooks or Databricks notebooks that are out there. It needs to know about all these artifacts, all the dashboards and reports, so that I can catalog them all, and increasingly starting to see more and more of this, like this announced at IBM Think in San Francisco in February, the ability to go to IBM Cloud Private for data with Watson Studio and look at a model that's been developed, and then if you're a data scientist, you've got your models that you develop, and then you just right-click it and say publish. Single click stands it up with an API in a container that will run on a Kubernetes cluster and publishes it in the catalog. Single click. And so what do you get is a catalog full of artifacts, which you could then say, well, okay, well, if I know about these things, could I not string them together? And rather than write code for everything, could I not string them together and deliver value that way? Way quicker, low code or no code. Just drive the value by stringing together the artifacts. And you then start to go and look at some of the cloud providers like Amazon, who are taking note of all of these things in their Azure, in their data lake and Amazon Glue catalog. But you start to be able to see what they're offering. They're offering the ability, pre-built analytics as a service, pre-built connectors to all kinds of sources. So here you see 3 different kinds of content, Twitter content coming in, review websites coming in, and voice data coming into your contact center. But now I can stream it in on Kinesis up here. But here's analytics as a service, pre-built analytics as a service. Just invoke it, give it Twitter data, it'll translate it to English if it's not in English. If it's review data, well, we can feed that in and translate it into the same language. Or here's Amazon Transcribe. Amazon Transcribe, give it voice data, it gives you text. So it converts voice to text. These are analytics as a service that we can just link together in pipelines and bring together 3 different sources of opinion and feed it into sentiment analytics available as a service. Just feed the text in and you get scored sentiment out the other side, all stringing together components already made. And so effectively, you could ingest your data into one or multiple data stores, as long as you've got data management software that can see across them all and then deliver trusted data in different platforms. But if you're going to go do that, how does the user access it? And the user's got to be able to have simple access to this to really drive value quickly. And that's where I see data virtualization software coming in over the top, making it look like it's integrated. And also the fact that if there are physical data sets here, I can build on them and create virtual ones. Like, I've got all my customers in customer MDM. Well, and I've got customer transactional activity over here. Well, could I not combine this and give you, top 100 customers as a virtual asset in data virtualization? So the way I kind of see this is we're moving towards this whole idea of a production line, a curation process, where we're producing physical data assets and then giving virtual data assets on top of it, different views of this, so you don't have everybody trying to download and copy data. And then have the catalog act as a marketplace where people can find trusted data described in common definitions in a glossary. And then, from there, you can start to see data warehouses waking up and go, we want to plug into this. So we want to get our master data and our transaction data from the marketplace and build it, maybe move it to the cloud. Could we also take all those physical data marts and turn them into virtual ones? That would reduce the number of data stores, give us way more agility, reduce the cost of ownership. Oh, and by the way, could we put a virtual layer between the users up here or applications and this data, so that if we want to restructure the data, no one notices. So we get agility, users protected, doesn't see the change happening underneath them. So if we had an Inman style data warehouse on a data center and now we want to go data vault on the cloud, we can restructure the data model, user doesn't notice. Also, how do I modernize data warehouses to integrate with streaming? Well, I can stream the data and land it in a data lake, and now I can create external tables in data warehouses that point to live streaming data. So I can then query the warehouse and join streaming data to historical data. This kind of capability is already out with Microsoft SQL Server 2019 with Polybase. It's also available on Exasol, which is a German massively parallel vendor getting a lot of attention. I noticed King.com here in London used them a lot. And of course, then what does it mean for the user? They've got the marketplace. They've got a lens across all of this landscape to understand what trusted data assets are available that are already produced. And then BI tools and data science plugging into it so that people effectively turn up at the marketplace and shop for data. So they can just look for trusted data. It's already there. It's got lineage. It's got a glossary. They can pick it up and then start to string it together to rapidly build dashboards. Am I talking theory? Well, take a look at this. This is the latest release of Calibra. What does it say up there? This is shopping cart. It's their catalog. It's called a data basket. Shop for data. Put it in your basket. These are the data assets that are available that are trusted. They can be rated. Oops. They can be rated up here so that people can see them. And then you see data science and BI plugging in. So again, this is a data science tool. This is Watson Studio. Can go right up to the top there, click on catalog, find recently created data assets, and just select one that I want and add it to my project. What about BI vendors? Well, this is Tableau. Tableau's now got a plugin. This is Calibra's data catalog plugin in Tableau. So as I click on visualizations within Tableau, like in this case, a tile map, and I click on that tile, then the catalog changes dynamically so that it only shows me the data associated with that tile. And an explanation of it, all dynamically available now. Not next week, not next month, all now. So to wrap up then, I've run over by a couple of minutes. For me, digitalization is going on right across organizations. It's causing enormous amounts of data and more complexity as we adopt NoSQL, Hadoop systems, cloud storage, relational databases that are increasingly sprawling out across a hybrid landscape. We've now got an analytical ecosystem. We had a data warehouse, now we've got multiple analytical systems optimized for different analytical workloads, but data is becoming far more complicated, and silos are too costly, and people are reinventing all over the place. So for me, we've got to look at common definitions. We've got to organize to become data-driven. You can look at logical data lake, because now there are data management platforms that can connect to multiple data stores either side of the firewall. We've got catalogs that can automatically discover data either side of the firewall. And we've got the ability to plug into those catalogs to produce trusted data sets and have BI and data science teams also use the catalog from within their own respective tools. But I think this whole idea of a supply chain to create ready-made assets is way quicker than just handing everybody self-service data prep and say, you figure it out. I think we would get far quicker if we started to build ready-made. But certainly this data marketplace, I think, is starting to really resonate in a lot of my clients. So that's really all I wanted to say. Maybe food for thought over a pizza afterwards. So with that, I'd just like to say thanks very much.